And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
How's it going, listeners? Welcome to RBLR Bucs, presented by RBLR Sports. Today is a very, very exciting day as Week 1 is finally upon us. It took a little while, but I have my beers ready for the tailgate. I got the parking pass. We're ready to roll. I know my boy Musaab is up in Boston, but I'm more than positive that he's probably got his beers in the cooler and ready to go as well. So that being said, Musaab, how's it going?
It's going, Stephan. Today, or actually technically tomorrow, but it's finally come. The time has finally come, Stephan, or to all of our listeners, the time has come. It's time for some football. My fantasy roster is all good now. I got my Devin White jersey all nice and ironed and cologned up for, tomorrow's game that I'm going to meet up with my buddies. And life's good because football season's back and I got a good feeling that the Bucs are about to have one hell of a season. What about you, Stephan? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. Even I don't know if it's it's back, but even the air smells different, right? I mean, football season's back. It was great to see some college football last week, and it was a little rough for the Bulls, but nonetheless, a lot of other good games on, and it just feels different. I mean, it's so to your point, it's great to be back with some boys and being able to do some fantasy football. So, hey, that being said, I'm pretty excited. So, how about we jump right into it here? We'll start.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll start. We got the Cowgirls in town this weekend. So that being said, what do you think the atmosphere is going to be? What is going to be the vibe for the Cowboys? A vibe, for us. What are your expectations? Emotions running high. They're going to drop the banner. Dak hasn't played in almost a year. They didn't look really good last year. So let's start there.
Well, absolutely. So I think I can safely say that since 2004, this is the atmosphere is completely different since 2004 for our Buccaneers. That's because we are the defending champion. So I think we want to come out hot, and especially the kind of leadership we have, aka Mr. Tom Brady. I don't think Mr. Tom Brady wants anyone thinking that hey, we're the champs and we're just going to take it easy on anyone. I think we're trying to fire on all cylinders immediately, starting with this first game, and I'm really excited. And I mean, yeah, you mentioned it yourself. There's a lot of things to think about in regards to like COVID, injuries, people recovering, new players. So lot to dig deep into. So Stefan, I mean, overall thoughts. If someone just asked you on the street right now, well, how you feeling about tomorrow? What would you say?
I would say I got butterflies, and I'm not even a player, so I'm assuming from the Cowboys that they're probably pretty excited. They're trying to ruin our party tomorrow. That being said, I don't think it'll happen. But they're also probably excited. They paid a lot of money for Dak Prescott, and he's back. That's good for them. From the Bucs side, though, I mean, I hope Raymond James is just completely packed. It should be rocking. This only happens what this is the second time in franchise history where we're going to see banner drop and fans are allowed back in, and even the Bucs and I think the Bucs and Raymond James announced this week that all home games are completely sold out. So now it's just time for secondary market. So that's good. I mean, it's been a while. I also saw that the ticket for the game tomorrow is the highest average price it's ever been. It's around $600. So fans are excited to go. So I'm pretty excited, and we made it. I would say like 97% of the way healthy. So it's better than a lot of teams. So very excited there. But how about what are your thoughts about last year when we had big games like this, right, under the lights, not counting the playoffs? We struggled a little bit, or your thoughts are, this is a new season, we figured it out in the playoffs, or are your thoughts, hey, it's still a big game during the year, we struggled to this in the past, this is something to take seriously, even though the Cowboys, were third in their division last year. They do have a lot of talent, but the defense was pretty bad. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, yes, all eyes are on us, and we are the team to beat. For any team, whether you win or lose, it's like, oh, okay, well, we're already better than this team. We already knew that, but every team is wanting to beat us because they know we're the champion. So if they can beat us, then they can probably beat everyone else. Well, that's the general idea. But are we ready for the bright lights? I think so. I absolutely think so, and I think. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow and throughout the season. But I really do think that the Buccaneers, the whole organization, from the coaches to the staff, really took advantage of this offseason especially because now, this isn't really kind of a little test trial. Everyone stayed. We got a nice leader now. He spent a whole year now with the Bucs, so I think Tom Brady's got a nice feel, and I think everything's well adjusted. To the rookies, it's just really on them to adjust themselves to our team. But overall, listen, I'm not going to be surprised if we struggle here and there. It's okay if we have our ups and downs this first upcoming game. My priority is just making sure that game by game that we're learning from all of our mistakes, and that's the vibe I got from our last season. You know, Especially the prime example is that Saints game. I just felt like we were so sloppy overall. Maybe that was just because we had a bad game, or maybe we just weren't ready for such a high caliber team like the Saints until we played them in the playoffs. So there's a lot to think about. I think there's a lot of pressure, but then also I think there's a lot of kind of like a fired up atmosphere within our team. So honestly, right now I'll say this, Stefan. It's Tampa Bay versus the world. It really is. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree, right? We go from the hunters to the hunted now, right? I mean, we're gonna get everyone's best shot. But I do agree there with you. Last year, sometimes, especially that Saints game, the lights might have gotten too bright for us. Been a team that has struggled for a lot of years, but I think with that playoff run, we showed what we're capable of. I mean, we went all games were away except the Super Bowl, so I think we'll be ready for the lights. So that being said, let's actually jump into some starters. I want to hear what are you looking for. Maybe some guys offensively, defensively. What are your thoughts there? Who's going to be ready? We've talked a lot about the backups, so it's time for the real thing. And the starters are named, the captains are named. So what are you looking for there?
Well, I'm looking for all of our stars to shine. I want a lot of this kind of different scenarios, opportunities. Overall, I just think that there should just be, I mean, obviously, we should just have a primary focus on all of our starters, but let's test some things out. I really do. I mean, we got some awesome, awesome players. So I don't think we can really mess up, but I definitely want to see, like, ideally, I got Mike Evans being our star player this first upcoming game, at least wide receivers wise. I think he's going to have the best game just with who he is. I think the matchups that he's going to be, facing with his speed or specifically his height and his strength, I think he'll be able to take advantage of that. Um, but the DB unit for the Cowboys for me is I wouldn't say they're a mystery for me or they're bad, but I also don't think that they're a very big threat. So at least for me, it's more thinking about, all right, well, how can we just make sure we execute perfectly. So Mike Evans is going to be my guy on offense, but obviously that's going to be due to Tom Brady's successful games that he's going to have tomorrow and in the future. But what I really care about is Mr. Defensive Player of the Year, who I think is going to go off. I'm serious. You know, uh, Listen, we got some amazing players. I really do. But I'm going to say the person who I see bring the most energy is Devin White. I think Antoine Winfield is right behind him. But, when I watch Devin White on the field, it's like, he's even after the play, he's still, getting in people's faces, and he's letting all these opponents know that, listen, he may be a young guy, but he's coming after their neck. He's coming after them, and he's gonna make sure that he does the best job he can. So Devin White and Mike Evans are my two players I'm gonna be looking at. Those are the two stars that I have. Ideally, kind of just having a really big role slash just gonna go off. Maybe I'm gonna be honest with you. I got Mike Evans on my fantasy team, so definitely looking for him to go off. But I want to know, Stefan, who are you thinking of?
Yeah, I got Mike Evans too, so we're on the same page there. But I'm actually going to focus on offensively. I think since we run by committee, it seems like that's where we're going. I'm going to guarantee 120 plus yards combined between I don't know if it's I'm hoping it's for Fournette and Rojo, but now we got Giovanni in there too. So I think we should be able to just pound the rock on them, which eventually will open up the play action to see some Mike action down the field. So I think running the ball because Dallas has struggled there in the past, and they really didn't add any big time free agents to defensive line. They did add a pick in Micah Parsons, who seems to be pretty good, linebacker from Penn State, and he looked really good in the preseason, he's flying everywhere. But that's not really containing the big guys up front. So I'm expecting him to or a running back to be able to feast there a little bit, which it only helps Tom Brady from there. So I'm pumped for that. Defensively, I think our D line should have a good day. I mean, I know they have it. I know they have a solid offensive line, but again, which we'll jump into a little bit later. They're having some COVID issues there as well as some injuries. So I think that's just going to open it up for us. I mean, we need it. I mean, they got Zeke Elliott, who had a rough year last year, and he's looking to bounce back this year. I know we're the number one defensive um, team when it comes to the run, but you can't really lay off of that guy. That guy's pretty. He's really talented. He's still decently young, so I'm looking for the guys up front to have a big day, especially guys like JPP, Vita Vea now coming back from that injury. Hopefully, he can stay there for a little bit. So those are my guys, but I think you make some awesome points. I just don't think that they're as talented as we are, so I'm very excited for this. So, we can keep jumping here, and my next question to you is going to be, um, who are you looking to surprise you tomorrow? Maybe of the guys we didn't mention because those are guys of the game. So who's like this guy's going to show up tomorrow that we're probably not expecting to, from a starter perspective.
Well, I expect him to. Slash, I just say this because I mean, you mentioned the big guys up front protecting Mr. Tom Brady, and that's Ryan Jensen, and I think that's important because listen, the Cowboys they're gonna have this whole new defensive identity, especially when we kick off this Thursday night against them. But Jensen's gonna be responsible for prepping the offense. He's gonna make sure everything's good to go before the ball is snapped, and off obviously afterward as well. So. The good part is the Cowboys, defense on the when it comes to runs ain't too hot, so I think we should do good with that. It's just that because they kind of have this new defense slash they even have a new coordinator as well. We don't know. We don't know. Maybe they made some changes as well. So. Of all the guys I'm looking at least O-line wise, I'm looking at Ryan Jensen specifically because I just want to make sure that he has a successful kind of game.
I
Because hey,
like
listen, I mean, yeah. Look, Tom Brady's getting old, and I just think that and I didn't realize it before, but the more games I watch and the closer I watch, it's really important that our guys protect all of our players. We don't want to see anyone get hurt because then what happens is then someone else has to step up and doesn't always work out too well. So hoping for the best, but yeah, Ryan Jensen's the guy I have in mind. How about
yeah.
you?
I like that because in a few games in last year even when Jameis was there, Jensen sometimes when the quarterback in the pocket tends to some bad snaps here and there, which are no good, especially when you're trying to protect someone. So I like that. And to your point, there's not a lot of film on this defense, right? I mean, they did kind of suck last year, but they do have a new coordinator, and Dan Quinn's decently respected around the league. So it's a very valid point. I mean, there's not a lot of film, and the guys got to protect our our $1 million guy. But
But who also has to protect our $1 million guy is Ryan Jensen. He should protect himself because we talked about this last time. But what happens is if Ryan Jensen, has to pop out, then guess
in
who's got
some
to step
trouble.
up to the plate? Guess who has to step up to the plate, Stefan? Mr. Rookie Robert Hainsey. Which listen, I have I wish him all the best, and I think he's a great player. But the thing is, obviously, he's working on a new position. It's the NFL, so I'm hoping he doesn't have to do much this first game. But thinking
Yeah,
about that is just making sure that our offensive line does stay healthy, but also that if they do, if they're not really looking too hot, then I'm praying that people like Hainsey, Stinney, Josh Wells, they're able to step up.
I agree. And I agree. I mean, again, we've talked about it in the past, and that's an area where we're a little concerned. So I like to pick with Jensen. I'm going to go on the defensive side. I'm going to go with Sean Murphy Bunting. He had an unbelievable playoff run. So I'm looking to, I just want to see that it wasn't a fluke, right? I want to see, especially against these wide receivers. I mean, Dak Prescott's playing, and those three guys are, I think the Bucs have the best wide receiving core, but after that, I mean, the Cowboys are at the top as well with Amari, CD, and Gallup. So I want to see how Bunting shows up tomorrow. If he can actually put a good year, our secondary might actually become a strength because I do think that Carlton Davis is a top 10 corner, and I think he'll keep the numbers don't lie. He's led the league in pass deflections and stuff. So if Bunting can actually be that second guy and be consistently good throughout the year, how he was in the playoffs, I think we're solid. So that's who I'm going to be paying attention because again, their receivers are really good. So it'll be fun, and it'll be fun. I mean, Bunting goes against great receivers in practice too, so it can only go up from here, right? What are your thoughts about Sean Murphy Bunting there?
Well, I just hope he doesn't have a roller coaster kind of game, because that just seemed like that was common. I mean, I think he's a great player, but I just don't have like a solidified statement to say that he's amazing, and I trust him a lot because when he does good, you obviously know, but when he has slips, and I don't want to throw the blame just on him and just put him on a little like mistake spotlight, but I think he's responsible. And listen, year by year, you're not a rookie anymore. So I feel like the experience that any of these players have, it's important, and I think communication is important. So perhaps maybe it's the things that go happen maybe before the whistle slash after the whistle or before the snap, that are really important for our DBs, making sure that we're all communicating well. We got eyes on all of our opponents, all the wide receivers, running backs. Maybe that's what it is, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I agree. So another topic that we wanted to cover here was injuries, inactive players, and while we're in the secondary, one of our big guys will not be playing in this game, which is our only guy actually confirmed to not play tomorrow. Jordan Whitehead. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's probably the most physical, guy in the secondary that we have, and Winfield's up there with him. But I think Jordan White has a thumper. I mean, that hit on Aaron Jones last year, that NFC Championship game was great. But I will say this is the one position that I feel comfortable with our backup because I do think Mike Edwards, he's a ball hawk. I think he would be a starter in any other squad. So I do feel comfortable with that. But I mean, I do miss Whitehead at the same time. So I kind of wanted to get your perspective on this one since he was a starter for the entire year last year and the year prior to that.
I think this is gonna kind of put a little chip on Mike Edwards' shoulder, especially because it's game one. So none of us have an idea what the league's like, or what these wide receivers are like, or how the team's really going to be playing when it comes to the regular season. So it should kind of give a little bit more motivation to Mike Edwards. But yeah, when I read Whitehead's name, the first thing that comes up to my mind is that super hard hit that he gave to Aaron Jones, and I think those kind of plays, whether you have one or two of those, Stefan, it changes the whole game dynamic. I think it changed the whole dynamic of that game we had against the Packers. So, having a guy sit out like him, I hope it's not too costly, but we'll find out. The good thing is that Mike Edwards has experience. All right, he's not some rookie who's going to cover
Yeah.
for Whitehead. So, what's
He's played. He
important is
played in
that
big games last year.
exactly. So he knows what he needs to do. So as long as listen, as long as our players know what they need to do, I think that's the most important part. My worry is just that there's some confusion in the air, but that usually only happens maybe for rookies or listen. I mean, no one's perfect, so we all have our good games and bad games, but I'm hoping everything goes well this upcoming game.
I agree. So another question here, and he's not inactive. We talked about him. Dak Prescott is going to play. The reason he's on our list here is just because he had that gruesome injury last year. So what are your thoughts? Will he slice and dice us? What are you expecting? This guy hasn't played football in like almost a year. I looked it up today. It's like a 330 something days. So I mean that's a long time. And he didn't play in the preseason. So I kind of wanted to get your what are you expecting? The Bucs. Again, the secondary played very well in the playoffs, but we had a roller coaster ride the rest of the year. So in that, I don't think he's a great quarterback, but a lot of people have him in their top 10, and he puts numbers up. So what do you think? What are your expectations for him tomorrow against our defense?
Well, yeah, I don't think he's anything special either, but I'm sure a lot of people have to disagree with that. But I will say this: that yes, yeah, he has, I guess, fully recovered technically from a very gruesome injury that he had back in October of 2020. But he's also been, reports have said that he's been dealing with some strained shoulders, and it kind of looks like he's had some ups and downs. But listen, as we're talking right now, he's all healthy, he's all ready to go. But the thing is, I don't think he's going to be slicing and dicing us at all because, listen, he hasn't seen any live action since the day he was carted off with that injury, and I don't know
Long
how
time.
he's going to be exactly. And then the big thing with preseason or all these training camps is you don't really have that true live rush or that true pace of a regular season game that you can obviously only experience once you actually start the regular season. So you can't simulate those things. Those, every opponent is different. Every team has their own style. It's all fun and games to be playing with your teammates and you can push each other, but it's a whole different ball game, especially when you're playing against the champs like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think it's fair to think that he's going to be looking rusty. I think he's going to be depending on the run game for sure a little bit more than usual, but I don't know. Maybe if he can shake off the rust early enough in the game, we'll see maybe the prime Dak that people love to see. But listen, I don't think he's going to have any super special kind of game, and for that reason, I don't think they have any chance to pull out an upset week 1.
I agree, and another thing is right. I mean, I've never had a gruesome injury like that, but when you have something like that, I'm saying I probably could assume that again, to your point, he hasn't played in the preseason. Even Tom Brady played. So you got to get, that touch and feel in the pocket where some people are falling close enough to you, especially when his leg was flipped upside down. I mean, he has no idea how that's going to feel when, not I don't want him to get hurt, but no one, he doesn't know how JPP hits him right there, like Devin White. We're going to be sending the house because Todd Bowles is going to test it out. Let's see what this guy's got. So I'm with you. I don't expect him to slice and dice us. I think the NFL did not do him any favors. They threw them right into the Sharks. I mean, you're playing a great blitzing defense after they won the Super Bowl at home with all their guys back. So I don't expect a lot from him either. I'm kind of hoping he gets sacked a few times, if I'm
The
being quite frank, just to see how that goes. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, they'll probably, listen, I'm thinking then, with all this injury talk, and I mean, I know he's recovered, but he's still banged up, and he's still, the way I see, he's still kind of fragile. So for that reason, maybe they're going to be playing a little kind of safe ball. Maybe they're not going to be doing anything risky. Maybe he might hesitate because I mean, we're not talking about basketball or we're not talking about soccer. This is football, and you said it yourself, Stefan. You're going to have these huge beasts like Shaq Barrett, JPP, Devin White, just coming at you with full force, and no matter what you do, you can't prepare for it, and you don't know how you're going to land, and so the thing is, it just makes me think, well, uh, their backup ain't anything special, so
No.
obviously all eyes are on Dak, and the thing is, if he's going to be playing a little careful ball, then I think that's just going to help us, especially with what else the team is dealing with, such as the other injury they got that we'll be talking about for sure.
Yeah. So then, right, go right ahead. We'll jump right into the next one, right? I mean, it's not an injury, but Zach Martin tested positive for COVID. I think this is a bigger deal than coming out to scene. I guess I read today he's vaccinated, so technically there's still a slim chance that he could play, but he needs to prove. I think the rule is you got to prove 2 negative tests within 24 hours of the game. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I saw some of the media in Dallas haven't confirmed him as he's not going to play, but a lot of people say he's unlikely to play. My opinion is a big deal. A lot of analysts believe this guy's going to the Hall of Fame. So when you lose a talent like that, that's never good, especially when you're protecting, the guy who we just talked about. This year worth 75 million and coming out of it, gruesome injury, having guys like we just spoke about coming after him. So I think if he doesn't play, I mean, it's going to be a feast for our defensive line if he doesn't play. So I kind of want to. I know we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but I'm predicting if he doesn't play, it's going to be a feast, and the running game is going to struggle. I mean, he's a big deal, and and imagine the backup now is going to have to just face straight up a guy like Vita Vea and Dominican Sue. So I mean, welcome to the NFL, I guess, right? I mean, that's just not good.
Exactly, exactly. And I'll say this also with Zach Martin being out due to COVID. I believe there's also I was told there was also another player who might be in and out as well. But that just creates an opportunity for their backup Connor McGovern to step up, and no one really knows much about him, but Yeah, you said it yourself. I didn't realize it too much. Didn't really obviously looking at the guy just because he's a guard, but looking more into Zach Martin, who he is. I mean, it's a very tough, unforeseen challenge for the Dallas Cowboys, especially just a few days before kickoff. And it's not, yeah, it's not easy losing your best player on offense minus Dak Prescott or your best O line, and it just emphasizes the importance of just the things that pop up that we all have to deal with, that every team has to deal with, and how is this going to affect us, or how is it going to affect them mentally, but also us, but specifically them, because listen, you got a banged up, recovered Dak Prescott. You have Zeke, who didn't have a hot year last year, so he's got a lot to prove. But we'll see what goes on with that. And then you got Zach Martin, who's out. So a banged up Dak Prescott is going to lead to more runs, but then more runs are just going to be more pressure for Zeke. So I just see themselves dealing with a lot of issues, and I won't be surprised if they kind of just have this mentality where they say, "Hey, listen, let's just give it our best. It's okay. It's week one. They're the champs. Let's just give it our all. If we lose, we lose. But if we win, like, yay."
Yeah, I tend to agree, right? I mean, the guy, again, people say this guy's going to the Hall of Fame, and I saw an interview from Zeke this morning actually say, it's funny that you said that, besides Zeke and Dak, because Zeke himself said that he believes Zach Martin is the best offensive weapon the Cowboys have. So, the guy said it himself, right? I mean, that's just not good news. And talking about a guy that's going to go straight at him if he does play, he got activated from the COVID list, which is great news for our Bucs. So, how do you feel about Ndamukong Suh being ready to roll?
I feel real good, really, really good. I think he's, it's just going to give him more motivation and knowing, if I'm kind of back and ready to play, and then I know that their all-star guard is out. We got a banged up Dak, and now Zeke is also. When Zeke says something like, "Oh yeah, we're Zach Martin's our best guy, et cetera," and then you find out later that their best guy is sitting out, then it makes me think, well, how is someone like Elliott thinking? Well, if my best guy's out, I got a banged up quarterback slash he's recovering, then I got to do a lot of the work, but then I'm thinking, we all know that. I'm sure that I'm sure our defense knows that. And our defense already knows that he's one of their better players. So eyes are already on him. So I just don't see anything working out for them. The more we talk about this, I don't see anything working out, and that's just gonna give people like Sue more motivation. He's gonna be fired up, and I think he'll be fine to play the entire game. It's just good knowing that we got some trustworthy backups, and listen, the feel that I'm getting is maybe on the defense side we might throw in our backups here and there if the scoreboard allows us to, but we'll see what happens.
No, I agree. And again, Suh's a big part of our, in big games he came up really big. Green Bay, for example, and then both Green Bay games, and we've been the number one rushing defense because of the presence in the not just the guys on the outside, the presence in the middle with him and Vea have been really good. So very excited to see him back. Another guy from our side, and moving to the offense, who was placed on the injury report on Tuesday because of a quad injury, and I was about to break a few glasses in my house. But then today he was a full participant. Was Godwin. So how do you feel? Is this something to be? I know we have a lot of depth in this position, but he's not on the injury report as of today. He was a full participant. So, what are your thoughts there? I mean, he's a guy that, in my opinion, in the when it comes to besides his hands, and he's a good receiver, but he's essential to a running game. He's a really good blocker. So, what do you think? You excited to see this guy? Have the green light to go tomorrow night?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the feel that I'm getting is, yeah. I mean, he's recovering from a quad injury. You don't know how serious it was, but if he's able to join us again, then I think that should be fine. The expectations, I think, are not too high for them, and I think Mike Evans and the rest of the guys are aware of that, and they know that they might have to step up. But someone like Godwin, I mean, he's our star or one of our stars, and great player, and the experience he has under his belt. All those things accumulated, minus his little recovery from the quad injury. He's still a very, very important person on our team. that means he's sitting on the bench or he's actually on the field. So very, very happy to have him back.
Love that, love that. And then moving on from the injury, and people coming out of the COVID list, one of our main guys up front defensively, had a little bit. He had some surgery done in the summer, but he mentioned this week, our boy JPP, that he's felt the healthiest he's felt since his rookie year. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because this was our only Pro Bowler last year. So how about coming back, from getting a surgery, and now he's stating facts like this that he's never felt this healthy? Because that's impressive.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, we know JPP, we know who he is. He's had amazing seasons in the past, and when he's saying something like this and being who he is, when someone says something like that, it fires everyone up. It fired me up when I heard that, and I got a lot of high expectations for him. And I think he's gonna have a wonderful season. But it also makes me think that everything's looking real good on our defensive side, at least with that little rotation that everyone's kind of been dreaming about, which is JPP, Shaq, and Joe Tryon. So it just makes me think, well, hey, one guy we already know who's healthy. We got another guy, Shaq Barrett, who's just an absolute animal on the field, and now we have this young beast who's on our team now, Mr. Joe Tryon. So we got a trio of some really just mean bulldogs, and I think we're going to do a lot of damage on the field. I think JPP is going to have one heck of a game tomorrow. I really do think so, and it's definitely something to kind of be really happy about. Slash, also, I feel bad, but then again I don't because it's the Cowgirls. I mean Cowboys. But listen, I mean, yeah, they're having O line issues. They're having a lot of offense issues, and when you already know a team has issues, it's already been dealing with a lot. You want to take advantage of that. So I think JPP's leadership, the motivation, his actions on the field, he's going to be doing a lot of stuff tomorrow for sure. What do you think?
I completely agree. I mean, the fact that he stated that, after a Pro Bowl year, I mean, that's just incredible. And then I saw his press conference interview earlier this week, and he stated, that he expects to have again a better year, expects to be flying out there. He said he didn't trust his knee last year. Like this guy just states that, and then he goes to the Pro Bowl. So again, I mean, he hyped up himself. So I'm expecting a lot from him. I know he sort of kind of drafted his backup in a way, but again, I mean, I think, in my personal opinion, JPP is one of the most underrated trades in Bucs history. I mean, we got him for pretty much a bag of chips. Um, and he's been unbelievable ever since he's been here. So excited about that.
Oh, absolutely. And a little extra love for JPP and all my JPP fans out there because he is a University of
Bull.
South Florida graduate. So
Oh yeah, I think he was there when they were ranked too, right? I believe. So that's pretty good.
can't be ranked without JPP.
Yes. So, moving on, a few more preview talks that we want to talk. I know we already dug deep into the Dak situation. So how about how do you feel about Zeke Elliott? The reason I bring this is because I know that the starters ended up stopping the Texans after after a few runs, but they were big holes there in that Texans game last week, and not to disrespect the Texans running backs, but none of them are Zeke. So how do you feel? This guy needs he got paid, then he wasn't really good last year. He needs a bounce back season. So this guy's gonna be hungry. So what are your expectations there?
Well, I think he's capable of doing a lot, but we'll see what we find out. I mean, listen, the reports can say he's faster, he's focused, he's in the best shape, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm gonna have to see it to believe it. And listen, I think he's gonna have a lot of good games against other teams. I just don't think he's gonna have a good game tomorrow. Um, but then on the other hand, I mean, listen, someone's got to do something on their team. If Dak's not looking good, all O line is not looking good, and if the wide receivers ain't looking too hot, then it makes you think, well, something's gonna happen. It's not like they're just gonna completely be shut down. I mean, as much as I would like to see that, I just don't think that will happen. So yeah, he's gonna do something. I just don't know, but I don't think it's gonna be that much. I mean, you're right. I mean, he has a lot to prove. He's getting paid. I think he wants to make the coaches happy as well, along with his teammates and himself. But a lot of pressure on him. I think tomorrow's game is it's going to be, I think, the most pressure on him um, throughout the whole season.
I agree. I mean, again, though, my theory is like, remember, these dudes also get paid, right? I mean, the Bucks were really good. We're the number one rushing defense, but again, he probably knows that. That's motivation. He wasn't really good last year. He got paid. We're the champs. So we're getting hunted. So to your point, I still don't think he'll feast on us, but someone's got to do something, and I wouldn't be surprised if it would be him, just because this is an offense where Zeke is good, and then the three receivers are very good as well. So, talking about a guy that we mentioned earlier, because I'm sorry to ruin, because it was my surprise, guy who's going to bounce back. So I'll let you take the floor on this one. But Sean Murphy Bunting versus the world of wide receivers over there, right? I mean, they are pretty much loaded like we are. Um, do you think he's going to be traveling with a certain receiver? Will we keep him in the slot as we normally do? Or what do you expect to see there? I mean, this is not a game to have an up, or this is the game to have an up, not a down. So what do you think there?
I think there might be a few ups and downs with him and the rest of the DBs in the beginning of the game, but I think we'll get a better feel. I have him more on the slot because I just think that with the variety of weapons they have, I think that every single one of our guys might have to get a feel of each of those players and find their strength and find who's better with who's faster, who's stronger, who can guard this guy, who can do this. But I think he'll be able to do a great job tomorrow. Um, I have a lot of you know, there'll be more expectations and a lot more to say after we see how he performs and how everyone else performs tomorrow. But the way I see it is that it's like the elephant in the room. I think there's a few things that the whole team knows that we ain't too hot at in, which is the DB unit, making sure our O line's in tip top shape. So when you come into your first game and you already know what kind of weaknesses you have, especially when the players know, it keeps them on their tippy toes, and I think we'll be able to make sure that we don't mess up. It's okay, we're gonna mess up. That's part of the whole season. We had a lot of errors and all that other fun stuff. Well, what wasn't fun, but all those other errors we had those past season, but we still succeeded. We still fought back. So uh, I'm going to take it easy on the DBs, but I also just want to make sure that because they are starters, they're not, they aren't the backups. This is the season now that we try to go hard at all times because our opponents are watching us. If we have a sloppy game and if we still win, but we have a sloppy game tomorrow, I wonder how that's going to make the Falcons feel saying, oh my gosh, well, the boys are back, but they barely got by a banged up,
Yeah.
Cowboys. So, then, I think there's a lot of mental going on right now before the first game. I think there's a lot of more thoughts, more nervousness for the rookies, just millions of thoughts going through the players' heads, the coaches' heads, and of course, our our listeners and all the other Buccaneers fans out there, they're going through their heads as well. So, um, there's a lot of things to be excited for, slash a lot of things to be maybe concerned about. But overall, I have good feelings about Sean Murphy Bunting and the rest of the boys.
I like it. I mean, I think to your point, the slot. I think he'll be in the slot just because Jamel Dean is way faster than he is. I'm expecting our boy Carlton to take on the duty of Cooper, and then they usually, Gallup is the guy who can blow the roof off. So I'll see him with Dean, and then they play CD a lot in the slot. So I think he'll be in the slot for the most of the game. But it just scares me. CD's a good route runner. So we'll see how that goes, but I got good faith. He's my surprise of the game tomorrow. I think that the man we saw in the playoffs is the man we're going to see going forward. So, so I think he'll be all right there. Our last preview topic here before we get into some game predictions, which is the fun here. Um, the preview here we talked about the run defense a little bit. So what are your thoughts on the Dallas defense when it comes to the secondary, the linebackers? Micah Parsons seems to be the guy who's going to be leading the load there, and they have a good linebacker room. So what are your expectations there? I mean, the run defense they didn't add anyone, so I think it's not going to be that good. But how about the guys in the back?
Well, I'll say this is, specifically when it comes to their run defense, it was It was looking very, very bad when it came to the Cowboys stopping a run in 2020. So, and one example, and I'll just bring this up because I'm not the biggest fan of the stats, but listen, they're 31st. They were 31st last year in total run defense. They were allowing about 150 to 160 yards per game. So, uh, they were just letting people run by them, so I won't be surprised if they let it happen again. Obviously they're making some changes to the defense, but listen, change doesn't just happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of time, and I don't think it's going to be an issue for us at all tomorrow. Absolutely, they have good players, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. It's just how everything else works out on the field, communication. The other things, who are the backups, who has to step up. Because I mean, listen, we're the Super Bowl champs. And we've had amazing players, but we had those kind of issues that past season.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is, it's just wondering. Well, we were, listen, we played bad because we had sloppy times or whatever reason it was. It wasn't because of our athletic capability. It wasn't because, oh, Devin White is too slow, or, oh, Jason Pierre-Paul is too fat or something like that. It's more about, oh, we just didn't read it that well. There was a little like miscommunication between these two or three guys. So that's what it all comes down to. And I bring those up because that's what the Dallas Cowboys are going to be looking to do. They're looking to just, get a feel of their own defense along with our offense. So they got two things to worry about. So for that reason, I'm not worried about the Dallas defense at all. Are they going to do a great job? No. Are they going to do a bad job? No. I think they'll do okay, like a C minus, maybe ideally a D plus. I don't think they're just gonna completely just let us walk over
Yeah.
them, like we did. I don't think it's gonna be a game like we had against the Lions last year, is what I'm trying to say. I think they might, be able to put up a fight here and there, but overall, not too worried. And just I think the fired up energy and knowing that the Cowboys are dealing with their own obstacles, it makes me feel better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we mentioned a lot about the defense, so I'm on point with you there. They do have a new D coordinator, which again, not a lot of tape. He's been all right in the past, but I still think you need the talent, and I just don't see it when it comes up front. So I still think we'll be able to run right through them. Like I said, I predicted a big running game, so I'm saying we're gonna run right through them. So I don't fear the defense. All right, so how about we jump into game predictions, Musaab? This is always fun. So, like I said, listeners, hey, don't hold us to it. These are just pure guesses on what we've read and stuff. So, Musaab, I would like to know, how about we go? You tell me your score, I tell you my score, and then I go back to you to see why do you have that score, and then you go back to me to see why we have that score. So, let me hear your scoring prediction for tomorrow.
My score prediction is gonna be 31-10, and yeah, what do you think, Stefan?
I got 38-14, so we're close. We're very close. So why you got 31-10?
Well, here's what I think. I think that we're going to be firing on all cylinders. We're going to be looking real hot and all that. I think the Cowboys are just going to have a little lucky thing, or maybe they might have one or two good drives where they're able to rack up a touchdown and get a field goal for 3 points. So for that reason, that's all I have, and that's all I'm going to give them. Now, the 31 I have for us is, I think we're going to be scoring a lot more in the beginning, maybe a little semi-slow start first quarter, second, third quarter, we're going to be real hot. Fourth quarter, if we want to, we can keep just, whooping them. But I think that's also a good time to just say, hey, maybe we should just give the rookies a chance to just maybe get a few minutes or maybe a few plays down, just so they kind of get a feel of what regular season ball is like, because regular season ball is, it's a different game compared to preseason. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for, and that's why I got 31-10.
I got 38-14 because I think we'll start just uh, pretty much running the ball right through their throat, which will score a few possessions early in the game. That also milks the clock, but then we'll start opening the play action, and Tom Brady will get to pick and choose whatever his spots are. So I just think 38-14, and I love, for all those bettors out there who are listeners, I love over and unders, and I'm part of the overs club. So the overs 51.5. So I got to go with 52 there just to screw it with everyone's minds. So that's what I got. And we got one last topic here, Musaab. Again, another guest. So we got awards. Who will be your Mr. Fantasy guy for tomorrow?
My Mr. Fantasy guy is gonna have to be Mr. Mike Evans for sure. Uh, I think, listen, he's already done phenomenal already. He's had an amazing career so far. I just think that people sleep on him, and with what we have right now, and I don't mean to put down any of our wide receivers or specifically like Chris Godwin. I just think that there's just a little bit of extra spotlight on Mike Evans this upcoming game, more than ever, and specifically for game one compared to any other game that we're going to have this upcoming season. So I think he's going to have a phenomenal game. I can't say exactly how many points he'll be able to rack up, but to all of our listeners, to all of our Bucs fans out there, to anyone who has him on their fantasy team, I don't think you'll be let down tomorrow.
I love to hear that. So I'll tell you who my guy is. You might be a little shocked. I got Mike Evans, so I got Mike Evans like you in my fantasy roster, but I think Antonio Brown will put the league back on notice tomorrow. Just because he wasn't here for training camp last year. Now it's a full training camp. The running game will be flowing. And listen, before his craziness, throwing couches out the window and stuff, I thought he was the best receiver in football. And I used to live in Pittsburgh, so I used to see a lot of those highlights. He got some work done too to his knees. Bruce Arians says he's ready to go like he used to be. So I think, because again, from a defensive standpoint, who's going to guard him? I mean, who's guarding any on our receivers, really? But I'm assuming people probably consider him our third receiver because you got Evans and Godwin. So I think he'll feast tomorrow, and I think he'll have a year. I wouldn't be surprised if he leads the team, maybe not in yards, but in catches. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping they both go off, but I think it'll be Antonio Brown tomorrow night.
All right, I like that a lot. And speaking of throwing out couches and having a feast, listeners, I hope you don't have to throw your TV out because we're getting whooped by the Cowgirls tomorrow. But I also hope that you have plenty of snacks, beer, whatever you have, whatever you want on deck, because it's going to be one heck of a game tomorrow. So that being said, thank you again to all of our listeners to listen to RBLR with your host, Stephan and I. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into all things Buck related as we face another team from the South, the Dallas Cowgirls. I don't know why I keep doing this. The Dallas Cowboys. So if you are as fired up as we are, then join us next week when we'll be digging into our matchup with the interesting division rivals, the Atlanta Falcons. And as always, you can head on over to RBLRsports.com to learn more about all Tampa Bay sports. But what you can also do is support us if you don't already. And if you're wondering, how so, Musaab Stephan? Well, I'll tell you how. Follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. That is at RBLR Sports. And make sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. You got Spotify, great, we're on there. If you don't have Spotify, not a problem at all. We got Apple, we got Google Podcasts, we got iHeartRadio for you, and we're even on YouTube and other major podcast platforms. So, any final thoughts, Stephan?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be, the parking lot opens at 4:45 tomorrow. I took the day off tomorrow and the day off Friday because I'll be as excited as most of our listeners will be. I hope Ray J is completely rocking. I'll make sure to remember as much as I can. It'll be rocking. So that being said, baby, let's go Bucs and cheers to our Bucs fans.
Absolutely. Well, I wish I could say I could take the day off, but I will leave work early for this game for sure. And I'm very fired up as well. To all of our listeners, the day's finally come. When you were listening to us in June or July, you were probably thinking, when is the regular season gonna start? Well, I got good news for you, ladies and gents. It starts tomorrow. So that's all for this episode, folks. See you next time. And as always, go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.